Assessment in higher education is defined by a disconnect. Students and faculty hold directly opposing views on the exact same tool. Empirical literature shows that undergraduate and graduate students value rubrics because they clarify the target. To a student, the document acts as a map, identifying critical issues, reducing anxiety, and making the final marks transparent. Many instructors, however, resist adopting them. Faculty often view rubrics as restrictive, bureaucratic requirements that demand a significant investment of time for the sole purpose of justifying a grade. Resistance stems from defining the tool itself. A standard rubric has three core components. First, the highlighted leftmost column, the evaluation criteria. These intersect with the top row, the quality definitions, which separate poor responses from excellent ones. These map down to the interior cells. Those cells contain the scoring strategy, the scale used to interpret subjective judgments into a final grade. Faculty resistance often stems from classifying this entire grid as an evaluative endpoint, rather than a tool capable of illuminating the instruction itself. To understand why rubrics frequently fail to improve student work, we have to isolate the variable of deployment timing. In 2006, researcher J.F. Schneider tested this with undergraduate education students. In the first group, the instructor provided the rubric only after the assignments had been graded. This chart shows the reported utility of that approach. When distributed after the work was done, only 10% of students found the rubric useful. But when distributed at the start of the unit, alongside the assignment brief, the utility rating climbed to 88%. The timing dictates the student's behavior. When withheld until the end, the rubric is a post-mortem justification. When provided at the onset, it functions as a guide for learning. A rubric is a map, and providing a map after the journey is complete yields zero pedagogical return. The data suggests simply handing out a rubric is not enough to automatically increase academic performance. A 2006 study by Green and Bowser tracked master's students who were passively provided a rubric prior to submitting their thesis literature reviews. The result was a null finding. There was no significant difference in the total scores of students who had the rubric compared to those who did not. The 2004 Reitmeyer study at Iowa State University changed the delivery method. Instead of receiving a rubric passively, food science students were required to use the tool as a primary component of their coursework. Students used the rubric for mandatory, repeated self-assessments and peer reviews of their oral presentations. This active engagement moved the needle. Average course grades rose from an 86% baseline in the previous semester to a 94% peak. The instructors also noted a shift in student questions, which became deeper and more scientifically rigorous as the semester progressed. Performance is governed by interaction. Passive provision fails, while active, pre-submission engagement drives measurable achievement. If student interaction dictates the learning value, the instructor's calibration dictates the measurement accuracy. This is the concept of inter-rater reliability. A detailed rubric often creates an illusion of objectivity, suggesting that any two instructors will arrive at the same grade for the same work. Researcher Megan Oakleaf tested this by analyzing how consistently different rater groups scored information literacy skills using the exact same rubric. The rater groups consistently failed to reach acceptable levels of agreement. Without a secondary intervention, the rubric alone could not standardize the scores. A 2004 study on medical graduates by Boulay and colleagues identifies the empirical solution to variance. In their pilot study, 76% of score variance was caused strictly by disagreements between raters. To fix this, researchers doubled the duration of rater training and calibration exercises before independent scoring began. Following that training, the variance between raters dropped to 12%. The final hurdle is population validity. The language of a rubric must be calibrated to the specific demographic it is intended to measure. Back in 2007, Lapsley and Nudi tested a single rubric across a classroom composed of both traditional and non-traditional students. They found the initial rubric failed the traditional student cohort. The language did not motivate them to expend the effort required for high-quality responses. The researchers had to mechanically revise the document, converting static point values into score ranges, and embedding concrete examples of student responses within each performance level. These changes successfully channeled student effort, elevating the quality of work for both demographics. Institutional copy-pasting destroys validity. Criteria must be custom-calibrated to the motivational drivers of the specific cohort. A correctly calibrated rubric operates at the programmatic level, measuring the health of an entire academic department. By tracking criteria scores across hundreds of students, departments can identify macro-level failures in their curriculum. A study by Dunbar and colleagues used this diagnostic approach in a public speaking course. The rubric data revealed that students were consistently failing 5 out of 8 core competencies, forcing the department to structurally re-examine how the course was delivered. High-efficacy rubrics are built on 3 pillars: language validity, rater reliability, and active pre-submission engagement. Without this architecture, instructors will continue to expend administrative effort for zero actual return on student learning. The literature is clear. Post-secondary institutions must move beyond using rubrics to justify a final grade and begin deploying them as the active